Hi everyone, it is Monday again, April 5th this time, and as you can see I'm in a different location this time. I am down behind this is the town hall, and behind the town hall is the Obradoiro Square and the cathedral, of course. But since I'm doing this without a mask, there's so many people up there, I decided to go down here and find a quiet place. I'm not comfortable taking off my mask with a bunch of people around. So you could say I hid down here, which is nice. So as you can understand, there's people now on the square. There's pilgrims. A pilgrim just walked in right now with a wheelbarrow and flags and everything. You know, the typical pilgrims walking in with celebrations. And I looked at the Pilgrims Office website to see if they had published these stats for March. They usually do that when the month ends, but they haven't published it yet. But there was an article in La Voz de Galicia that indicated they probably got some insider information before it got published on the website. It looks like from January 1st, they have given out 268 Compostelas, 194 in March. And yesterday I saw there was 272 pilgrims arrived yesterday. So so people are walking the Camino around, probably mostly Galician or people living in Galicia. I'm sure there's one or two that sneaks in from other areas, but they're not allowed to enter Galicia. But I'm sure there's not a lot of control, so I'm sure there are some people that are walking from further back as well. But mostly people from Galicia. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's in the description below, I'll put a link to all these news articles that I will mention today, including this one about the numbers of pilgrims arriving. So, as you can understand, virus-wise, it's stabilized. I don't know if this means there's just a very flat U until we start coming up again, or it's going to just be flat. We don't know that yet. With very nice weather this Easter, happy Easter by the way, we've had a lot of people moving around, which is in general not a good thing, but they've been moving around from within Galicia that hasn't had a lot of spread. So we'll see what comes if we wait a week or two to see what effect that will have. But so far the numbers in Galicia are stable. We're 70. The last number I saw is from a few days ago, from April 1st. So that was 74 cases per 100,000 inhabitants. Spain is at 154. Now, looking at the graph for Spain, it looks like it's moving up again. So for Spain as a country, things are ticking the wrong way. Not very abruptly, but it's moving up towards the fourth wave. In Galicia, we're still on the downward trend, but it's going down by less each time, so maybe at the bottom. Anyway, restrictions in Galicia are the same as before. Cafes and restaurants can be open. They have to close at 9. Curfew at 10. And yesterday I was walking just a little bit around Old Town, and there was a lot of people by 8:30. Streets were pretty full, and then by 9, when places start to close, it was pretty much empty. Anyway, Portugal has decided to go, or Spain, the Portuguese border. I talked about the Portuguese border last week, and that it looks like it's been confirmed now, both from Portugal and from Spain, at a national level. The border between Portugal and Spain will continue to be closed until at least April 16th. I'll link to a newspaper article about that later as well, down in the description. So that's what that looks like. It looks like you can have people come into Spain or come into Portugal, if you come in from Portugal to Spain, you need to be a Spanish resident. You could be a student, or you need to travel for which it needs to be related to your work. Then you could cross over. All other people are not allowed to cross over. And since, of course, the Camino related, the border is on a river, I guess it's easier for them to have controls for pilgrims as well. Not sure if they will control pilgrims, make the controls for pilgrims, but I know on the road they do stop all the cars. A few weeks ago, I mentioned that Santiago Old Town is installing a new system to restrict cars into Old Town, because they're trying to protect Old Town and the streets in Old Town. As a part of that, they're also redoing the rules and the laws for who can travel in Old Town on the streets, and it seems like bicycles will be not allowed to move around in Old Town on the streets. And of course that affects people biking the Camino. How are you going to get into Old Town to the cathedral if you can't bike, if you bike the Camino? But it seems like they will, when they make this new law, they will make, I guess, a path or one street that you can come into. So I just wanted to mention it. I'll link to the article below if it comes up, and yeah, people are worried they can't get into to the cathedral with a bike. They will allow a bike in certain streets. I guess the streets that is the entrance points for the various caminos. What else? There's a new law at national level that says you have to wear a mask in any public area in Spain. In Galicia, we've had that locally for a long time, but it seems like they decided to do this as a national law from Madrid. And and I know some people were very discouraged by that, because that means they would have to wear a mask when they were walking out in the rural areas and everything. And I've just spent 5 days now up at my father-in-law's house in the mountains in Lugo, and I've been walking around there with no mask for 4 days. So although this is a law, I guess I don't think it changes anything on the Camino. And people shouldn't not do the Camino just because they have to think they have to wear a mask. You have to wear a mask if you see someone else that you don't, that is not part of your family or part of your bubble. Other than that, it is possible to be out in the rural areas of Spain and not wear a mask. So I talked about international flights starting up again also last week. Vueling has, I don't think they've announced it, but there's a website that only is dedicated on the Santiago airport. And this guy has his inside sources, and he published a list of of the plans for Vueling this summer. Vueling is, of course, the low-cost airline owned by Iberia, and they have decided on their destinations for the summer routes. So it looks like I don't know exactly the date for this yet, but it's for the summer. Their plans on flying direct routes from to and from Santiago will be from Ámsterdam, Barcelona, Brussels, Fuerteventura, Gran Canaria, Ibiza, Lanzarote, Málaga, Menorca, Palma de Mallorca, Paris, Orly, Tenerife, Norte, Sevilla, Valencia, and Zúrich. That's the upcoming plans for Vueling. I would go onto their Vueling website to see the actual dates. I'm sure some of these routes will have several departures per day, and some of these routes will probably just have a couple of departures per week. That's usually how it goes to the these kinds of announcements. But it's interesting to see that airlines are starting to think about the future a little bit and start thinking about what it's going to look like after we're done with all this. Also, I know people that are, my arm is getting tired. I know people are thinking about how if they travel to Spain now, they need a COVID test to be able to enter when they travel back home. And the Santiago airport has now set up a place where you can get this, what is it called again? In Spanish it's antígenos. It's not a PCR, it's a antigen? I haven't heard this word being pronounced in English. Antigenous test? I think you know what I mean. It's but you could take this test now. They offer this test at the airport. I'll link to the article in the santiagoaeropuerto.com website. That's the same guy that had the vueling news. He had he had this on his website the other day, and this guy, it's you could trust what he's talking about. He knows his Santiago airport stuff. I also saw some photos of people, medical people there. Has a little section set up there in the departure area. So it seemed like you can get your test there if the antigenous test is valid for re-entry for you. Because sometimes the country requires a PCR test. If they require that, then you would have to go somewhere else. And there are some places in Santiago that will offer you this. But see, I don't really have any experience with that because I haven't done a test, so I don't know. Because I saw someone on the forum saying that you have to, how far in advance do you have to book one of these PCR appointments? I'm not sure. What else? Yeah, I mentioned Galicia and virus-wise that we have 2,167 active cases right now, which is not a lot compared to we have almost 4.5 million people. There's over 100 municipalities in Galicia that hasn't had a single case in weeks. I think one place I saw for 14 days, as another website I saw was mentioning that it was for over a month. So, as I said, these are the municipalities that are very rural, right? So it's not as it's difficult to have 0 cases if you're a city. But the news I saw in La Voz de Galicia this morning is that, for example, Santiago has lowered the numbers of cases a little bit from the other day, as of the numbers that was reported this morning or yesterday. So we're in a good place. It's not great, but we're good. Vaccine-wise, we're, I think, up to about 15% now. We were stuck at 12% for a couple of weeks because we didn't get any more vaccines. Over the weekend, I think we got 2,000 people were vaccinated in Santiago alone, and we're supposed to get 2 million, was it million or 2 million doses? A lot of doses coming into Spain this week. So it seems like things are ramping up, which hopefully is true and not only something that is said. Anyway, as you can see, weather is great. People have been enjoying the nice weather over Easter. A lot of people in the streets in Santiago. Cafes have finally gotten a little bit of income because they've been able to put their tables out in the street, and it's been packed. I've been out of town for a few days, but from what I've talked to a few people who work in the cafes, they were happy. So that's good. Okay, I'm gonna stop here. I'm on my way up. We'll take a little bit of a video up as I pass the Obradoiro, see what it looks like. Hope things are good there. See you soon. Ciao.